Hi everyone, it's Sunday, May 1st, time for another HideNet Week in Review. I'm Vera Dordick. Let's start with the U.S., where again, prices are weak overall, and that's despite the fact that a couple of selections added $1 or $2. That was mostly based on small volume sales. And after we said last week that there was discussion of being at or near a potential floor, that seems to have gone out the window. Heavy Texas steer prices were generally unchanged. Selections at 62-64 pounds sold for a high of $25. Automotive selections saw a little improvement, but again, those sales volumes were limited. And in the cow sector, prices dropped due to low interest and the fact that China's not buying much, with that sector really dependent on that country. Looking at the export figures, sales really dropped from the previous week. In fact, combined export sales for the week ending April 21st were down by 40% at 445,200. On the other hand, combined shipments were really not that much different than last week at 545,100, or just by 1% at 656,000. Turning to Europe, editor Andrea Guolo says that prices are on a general downward trend, but not necessarily for all origins. In fact, the market is still pretty blocked. Overall, it's the usual story. If sellers really need to move some stocks, they can do it by giving out discounts. But if it's the other way around and tanneries have some urgent orders to complete, they have to pay what sellers are demanding. In the UK this week, currency issues were a big weight on prices. European demand in Great Britain is constant, but right now tanneries can't afford to pay the February prices, so the latest conclusions were made at £1.05 sterling per kilo for the 36 plus in England, and in Ireland prices are on the decline also, but sales were still at about euro per kilo for the same weight. Looking at European bulls, Andrea says that some origins seem to be going unsold at the old prices, so sellers have had to grant discounts to get those contracts signed. And this is the case for southern German hides, sold at €1.65 per kilo, compared to €1.70 to 75 cents in recent weeks. For European cows, prices were also down, and that's because there were a lot of hides looking for a market last week. In the end, many origins lost 5 to 10 cents. In the veal sector, the drop in cow prices will definitely have an effect on these levels. And among sheepskins, high quality remains rewarding. In his analysis, Andrea explains how the firm position of tanneries is overriding the rigid position of sellers, and prices are starting to decline. Low activity, on the other hand, is driving up the prices of wet blue splits. In South America, editor Ronald Guiel says that raw material prices dropped another 10 cents this week after having done so the past couple of weeks. The average price is now $3.01 per kilo. Now, by contrast, TR1 remains steady with a reference price of 92 cents per square foot. That said, the split market has seen some changes, and that was mainly brought about by great demand from the gelatin market. In other news from Brazil, the footwear industry there is launching a new fair in November 2023, and this year Inspira Mais is set for July. From elsewhere in Latin America, Argentine shopping mall sales rose in February, and that's especially true for leather goods. Colombia's fashion imports are up by double digits in the first 2 months this year. China is the main international supplier for footwear to Mexico. Paraguayan leather was up in the first quarter, but footwear exports were down, and Uruguay has displaced the U.S. as the largest global supplier of leather to Brazil. That's all we have for this week, and until next week, good night from HideNet.